I think sustainability is not only important to me, it's important to the survival of the human race.
Would you like to just kind of introduce yourself and tell us about your role at the University of Washington?
I'm Frank Hodge. I'm Dean of the Foster School of Business, and I've been an accounting faculty member at the Foster School for 25 years.
Were you born and raised in Seattle, or were you born and raised somewhere else?
I was born and raised somewhere else. So I'm from northern Idaho mainly. I was born in Priest Lake, Idaho, which is way up by the Canadian border. Wilderness. My dad was a forest ranger, which was my first exposure to sustainability and climate-related issues.
When you were growing up, like with your family and your household, did you have any personal relationship to sustainability? Did your parents talk about sustainability, or was it something like you realized later in life?
No, from a very young age was exposed to climate-related issues and sustainability. So my father, the forest ranger, was a part of the Forest Service during the we're not going to do controlled burns or controlled cuts. So they stopped doing that and they started suppressing all fire. So he was a part of the Forest Service when they were doing controlled burns. Then they stopped doing controlled burns, which he was not a fan of. And we get to, unfortunately, experience the results today. So I remember as a child setting up a picnic blanket on a field, watching a controlled burn on the side of the mountain, which was a part of managing the forests in northern Idaho at the point. And I knew my dad was up there on the mountain watching.
Wow. How would you say that has kind of like influenced your career?
I would say it's influenced it in, I'm always thinking about that. So, for example, one of the first decisions I made as Dean of the Foster School was to change our newest building, Founders Hall. It's a mass timber building. So one of the first decisions I made was to convert that building from a concrete and steel building to a mass timber building, which resulted in a 76% less carbon footprint over its initial 60-year life, right? Those are the kind of decisions we need everyone to be leaning into because they're going to have impacts. For example, in the airline industry, when you buy an aircraft, it lasts decades. So we have to be buying aircraft today that are good for the environment a decade from now. And so we need to be weaving into all of our decision-making, what is the impact on people and our planet.
So why would you say sustainability is important to you?
I think sustainability is not only important to me, it's important to the survival of the human race, right? If sustainability simply means to be able to do something day after day, and if we're treating the earth in a way that doesn't allow us to do the same thing day after day, then we're not being sustainable. And I think we just have to develop a lifestyle and just make it such that that's just who we are. Is we're people that leave the earth either better off than it is today, or at least no worse off than it is today for future generations.
And what is your opinion on how that relates to business, like sustainability within the business
I
field?
think unless business is a part of this, we're not going to make the change we need. So in my opinion, there are lots of parties that need to be involved here. Three primary. One is the science side. So we have to understand what we're dealing with. What are the effects? What kind of changes? What kind of impact will they have? Policy. You've got to have policy involved, right? Because not everyone's going to make the change that we need to make. And so policy has to guide that. And then the other one is business. And so if you get business, policy, and science working together, that's the change we need to see.
Yeah, that's like the best combination you
That's
got.
the best combination. I would say we've gotten ourselves into this mess and we need to get ourselves out. But because we got ourselves into it, I know we can get ourselves out.
There you go.
Right? I have tremendous faith in the innovation, creativity, and grit of the human race to solve problems.
What role do you think higher education should play in shaping like a more sustainable future?
I think higher education does an excellent job of challenging people's assumptions and exposing them to thoughts and different ways of thinking than they've ever seen before. I think we have to continue to push that boundary in the climate space. So what we need to do is incorporate conversations into places that they haven't been before. For example, in the business environment, supply chain, which I mentioned before, but also financing. So how do you encourage financing of projects that will result in more sustainable outcomes as opposed to less sustainable outcomes? What are the incentives involved there and how might we manipulate or adjust those with policy decisions? So I think we have to integrate it into our fabric. It is who we are and we talk about it all the time.
What gives you hope?
I think there are two things. I grew up in the wilderness. I'm not a city person. So
Okay.
when I want to feed my soul, I go out into the mountains and trail run or cycle. In order to maintain the beautiful natural environment we have, we need to make changes. So that motivates me. The second is your generation. Looking at the generation that's coming and how much they care about this topic, how much their desire is to make a change in this area, and even sacrifices. You know, I think your generation is willing to give things up in order to make change so that it is better for future generations. So it's the energy and the strong desire amongst your generation to make a change so that the world's a better place tomorrow than it is today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Last question for you. So,
Sure.
As far as hope at UW looks, what do you hope that students in 2050 are going to have in relation to sustainability at the UW in 25 years or so?
I hope that we're not having to have conversations about change, that we've already put the changes in place that make whatever lifestyle we have in 25 years sustainable for the future. And I don't know exactly what those changes are. There will be some changes that result in us giving up some things that we do today. But I have great hope in the creativity and innovation of the human race, that there are things we can do that we don't even know today that will make our world and the human race better in 25 years than it is today.